Spoiler warning! Spoiler warning! Spoiler warning!
Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls deep! And in this video, we are talking about a day that will shatter our hearts and bring the fan base together. A day that will make us weep, scream, plus ultra! That was cringe, holy shit. Anyway, it's a day where the tissues next to your PC isn't for what you may think, but actually to wipe your tears. And that's All Might's death. I mean, when I told the Discord about this, where I said I'll be using my quirk of balls deep prediction and be covering every single sign and foreshadowing regarding why All Might would die in My Hero Academia, look what happened!
They're gonna show Deku using the flow quirk for
Guys, I have some bad news. I've used balls deep prediction quirk, and guess what?
What?
All Might's gonna die, guys.
He's not on
So clearly, this is going to be a huge event, and I'll be using balls deep prediction quirk explaining how it may occur and why. I will also provide the arguments to debunk this idea that All Might dies due to the power of, you guessed it, plot armor.
Of course!
Again, make sure to join the Anime Balls Deep Nation on Discord, where you can have fun and interact with us. Also, please, can we get at least 15,000 likes on this video? I mean, the Black Clover ABD Nation squad gives about 30,000 likes a video. Are you telling me that My Hero Academia fam is weaker than Black Clover? Come on guys, you have to go plus ultra, at least get half of what they do. Come on fam. Alright, so the first sign to cover about All Might's death in the manga comes from Nighteye. This is the most obvious one, as Sir Nighteye's quirk Foresight looked into All Might's future, which revealed that he will die against a villain, and it will be an unspeakable death. Because of this prophecy, Sir Nighteye refused to work under All Might as he requested him to retire. But as we all know, All Might wanted to continue going plus ultra, as he decided to pass on his quirk much later than Nighteye wanted him to, and also refusing to give it to Midoriya and chose Deku. Ultimately, we all know All Might got heavily injured against All for One. Later, even though All Might retired, the future of him dying would happen within 6 to 7 years time according to the vision, which is currently the present that we are watching. In chapter 131 of the manga, All Might informs Deku the prediction of his death. It stated that Nighteye has the capability to look years ahead into someone's future, but the only problem is that the accuracy in actual timing may be off. But a case against this prediction is that Nighteye's prophecy can be changed. We see this with Deku and his fight with Overhaul. Although this was definitely due to protagonist plot armor, along with giving us hope that the prophecy of All Might dying a brutal death can also be changed, the reason Nighteye said his prophecies can be changed is due to chapter 161, where he explains that the future he sees can be changed due to the belief that Midoriya and everyone had to make something better to occur. It's an energy of plot convenience that allows Deku to use Talk no Jutsu and defeat Overhaul. This effectively allows him to change destiny. So when Deku addressed All Might about his death, Deku declares that he will make sure that this future will never ever occur, and he will become powerful enough to stop it. So this means the possibility of him changing destiny can occur again. And if that happened for Eri, why can't it happen for All Might? Anyway, let's move on to the second sign alluding to All Might's death, and this is regarding the direction the series is being portrayed. Throughout the manga, we get a narration of what seems to be future Deku telling a story on how he becomes the #1 hero. So everything we witness is actually in the past for Deku, the narrator that's in the future. And if we pay close enough attention to how future Deku refers back to All Might, it comes off as though Deku is doing a eulogy for his mentor and the greatest hero to ever make a difference to his life. But we can't say this for sure, so take it with a grain of salt. However, let's keep in mind that the usual push of a protagonist needs to achieve the maximum output is their sensei's death. Let's not forget All Might's sensei Nana also died in a brutal death. This kick-started All Might's future in becoming one of the greatest heroes to live. On top of that, we know that the One for All quirk might not even get a 10th user, because the quirk singularity theory the doctor explains is actually coming true, in which quirks are getting too powerful for the human body to withhold. All of Deku's bones are being shattered just by using its power, and he's trying to learn how to control it. Passing it on to the 10th user means means it accumulates even more power, thus potentially destroying the literal limbs of the person. As soon as they use the power, boom, that shit's gonna explode off. All Might's current situation is that he already passed on One for All to Deku and has officially retired from being a hero. Whilst that is the case, Shigaraki doesn't really give a shit if All Might is retired or not. He wants him dead for a reason. That is to declare his arrival of being the king of villains, being the antithesis to All Might's I am here moment, where All Might would save everyone, being the symbol of peace. However, Shigaraki will be signifying death by killing All Might publicly, where his I am here moment will symbolically mean the villains are taking over. We all know All Might being heavily injured means he's pretty much a liability. This was highlighted by the manga itself, where he couldn't even defend himself against a rock in the training arc where Midoriya was introduced. He was told by Aizawa to take a back seat, and you can clearly see All Might realizing his role in the front lines is disappearing. Even later on in chapter 256, another sign of All Might's role being complete is demonstrated when he witnesses Deku mastering his second quirk, the Black Whip. The next generation of heroes use their quirks to its new potential to showcase their progress, indicating that one day they will be fine to work on their own. All Might admits this himself and self-reflects on the words that he told Deku in the start of the manga, where he states, "If you too hope to become a top hero, you can't afford to pass this chance up. You've earned this power fair and square." Do you guys like that voice? It was pretty good, wasn't it? Do I sound like a good sensei? Do you want me to be your sensei? Type that shit in the comments. I want to be your sensei. Anyway, in chapter 241, All Might starts writing up notes about the other quirks in One for All for Deku, where he is shifting to a support role and preparing for a situation where he isn't around to actually mentor Deku in the future. As he watches the back of Deku using Black Whip, he says, "That day feels like ancient history now. You don't look back at me anymore. You don't need to. Go on, kid." What this connotes is the idea that Deku, being this unconfident man, has passed off. He used to look up to All Might as his symbol and would want his approval and teaching of how to use the quirk properly. Deku in fact looked at All Might's back, but now the roles are reversed. This is why All Might admits Deku doesn't need to look back, because he is not needed anymore in that way. Deku has evolved the quirk into his own. He discovered his legs as well as the other vestiges that provide more quirks. That's why we see in chapter 241, the narrative has pushed All Might's position into the role of being the guy that gathers the info. Recently, in chapter 257, he explained Deku's float quirk from Nana, and that's what he has become. Not only that, in chapter 257, All Might is shown to be sad as he is slowly realizing his role to Bakugo and Deku is slowly diminishing. He offers to keep himself busy by helping Aizawa train Eri's rewind quirk. As All Might discussed with Deku about his death that he decided to keep on living, he laments this idea to Aizawa too by opening up about his feelings. All Might says he feels powerless. The students are growing stronger, but he's frustrated he can't do anything for them. However, Aizawa reassures All Might that there is plenty he can do, which is to live and be there for them, which should be enough since you protected the country for decades. Keep being the All Might that they know and love, as that's all the push that they need, which only further demonstrates the idea that All Might will die, fam, by Shigaraki. You know, since the idea of characters being pushed is literally being stated right on the platter. Like, All Might is on a BBQ roast Sunday, fam, with seasoning and everything. All this shit needs to do is be put on the grill, fam. Chop that shit up in pieces. Everyone's invited to this shit, and we're waiting for the slow burn for that rare good steak, fam, with that sauce. You need the sauce, you know what I'm saying?
This shit good.
Now, one interesting thing to know is that All Might has been told by Aizawa in chapter 257 that the police commissioner wants him to meet Stain. Yeah, the one dude that is the most relevant person in the whole plot of the show, but doesn't get a smidge of airtime. This further perpetuates the idea that the ideologies within My Hero Academia will further be explored, and All Might has just become an information gatherer for the plot to progress. Now, with All Might taking himself out of the line of duty, how is he really in any danger? A lot of you guys were thinking All Might's death might have been due to his injuries, as he did state that all surgeries and quirks do not help. But honestly, his injuries aren't much of a factor, because let's be real, there is a high chance of him healing through other means. Like, I don't understand, fam. Why doesn't the boy Katsuma Shimano from the Hero Rising movie, the boy with a S-tier quirk and could heal Deku and Bakugo in a matter of a few hours where they broke all their bones or were about to die, how come this boy can't give All Might this treatment to recover his cells? His quirk had the power of cell activation. Cell activation allows its users to activate the cells in their body or another person's body through touch, and this increases regeneration, recovery time, and can even improve physical condition. Alright, I get it, Chio's heal quirk didn't work at all. Why can't you combine these quirks Might and do something. Don't these guys have big brains?
That don't make no sense.
But wait! All Might explained in chapter 1 that the injury that caused him pain and made his career end earlier was an injury against All For One. He states, my respiratory system was nearly destroyed and my stomach was removed. I've wasted away due to those surgeries. The human respiratory system is a series of organs responsible for taking in oxygen and expelling carbon dioxide. So I don't see how a famous and wealthy man like All Might, sexy beast that he is, cannot use a boy or a person that recovered these systems for him. And that brings me to my next point. As I said in another video, when Eri's training from chapter 257 is complete, as Aizawa mentioned, she will be able to bring him back to his prime status. However, All Might would not, and I repeat, would not have One For All again because it has been passed down to Deku. The One For All quirk is an accumulation quirk that stores the energy of the users and is sentient. In chapter 217, Monoma already explained to us that even though he copied One For All, he cannot use its power. On top of that, the quirk has a mind of its own, as the other users within it have their life force within the quirk that are watching Deku from the inside. This was confirmed in chapter 194. The One For All quirk is the only power that cannot be copied or stolen for a reason, as the quirk and user have a will. It's the sole purpose of the quirk, just like All Might described in chapter 257, it's to defeat All For One and get rid of injustice. It is somehow connected to All For One's quirk, which we will find out why in the future. So if All Might's injury isn't a factor to his foretold brutal death, then what is, fam? Well, that's our boy Shigaraki's unrelentless will to kill this dude. This brings me to the next point, where Shigaraki, he's literally broken and is the king of villains. His power, where he decimated a whole city with the use of his quirk, parallels All Might with One For All, where he would destroy a city if he used his power 100%. On top of that, the power Shigaraki has gained from the operation is the ability to copy quirks similar to All For One. Shigaraki blames heroes and says it's all linked to All Might with his conversation with Deku in the season 2. He has said it time and time again that he will make sure he kills All Might, which only provides even more consistency to Night-Eye's prediction due to him stating that All Might will die a brutal death. What's more brutal than Shigaraki killing you and torturing you, decaying you inch by inch for fun? I don't know, fam. Shigaraki has said that he will make sure he kills All Might in chapter 68 and chapter 246. He says he needs to obliterate, and I repeat, obliterate all the dregs All Might has left behind. Shigaraki hates the ideology that All Might created, which is the concept of relying on heroes and that they are indeed righteous due to the justice system that they represent and rely on to do whatever the hell they want. He tells Deku in chapter 68 that the literal smiles of civilization pisses him off. Shigaraki wants to point out the hypocrisy of the heroes, because part of it is linked to his childhood, where he wasn't saved by a hero himself. In fact, it was All For One who manipulated him into becoming who he is and molding Shigaraki to feel the way he does about heroes, and specifically All Might. However, Shigaraki doesn't know that his grandmother Nana was a One For All user and that All For One killed her. This proposes the idea that when he gets this revelation, that's the moment he cannot control his emotions and kills All Might. Because we all know All Might got this knowledge from All For One, and in trying to explain to Shigaraki about the manipulation that has occurred, it will offset a massive trigger, as Shigaraki might feel as though All Might is just saying this to manipulate him, which would further enrage Shigaraki to give the killing blow. Now, I have already done a video explaining how All For One manipulated Shigaraki. If you're not confused and you want to be on the same page as the community, I'll link that in the pinned comment. And guys, remember, please smash that like button. Let's get to 15,000. And now this brings me to my next point. For example, when in prison, All For One taunts All Might that his ultimate fate is to be killed by Tomura Shigaraki. Gran Torino warns him that if All Might doesn't see him as a criminal, he'll be inclined to try and help him, which of course will seal his potential fate and death. All For One has brainwashed Shigaraki in a manner where he believes he owes his new father everything for who he has become. In the earlier chapters of My Hero Academia, All For One declares Shigaraki as his disciple, and he says that Shigaraki needs to become a symbol for the villains that can help them move freely. He says that the world needs to know the terror that he represents, and All For One literally taunts All Might, stating that he missed his chance to die and that he has taught Shigaraki to be independent. The day will come where Shigaraki's rage will be their regret, as he has been fueled enough to unleash this upon them. So as you can see, the whole story is building up to the point where the symbol of peace is taken over by the symbol of terror that Shigaraki represents. Everything that happens so far within the story follows a dramatic writing principle known as Chekhov's gun, which is that details in good storytelling must hold importance and contribute to the overall overall narrative. An irrelevant plot point should be removed so that no false promises can occur within a story, meaning that us, the audience, shouldn't be misled unnecessarily. All Might's prophecy will have to be addressed no matter what. He will either die or be saved by Deku just as he promised he would. Now moving on to the next point is how it's a shonen trope to have the main character's sensei killed as a plot device to further the main character himself. We see this pretty much in every shonen show. For example, in Naruto, Jiraiya is killed by pain, and after learning about this, Naruto is headstrong and he learns Sage Mode and perfect Rasen Shuriken. Just like this, Deku could witness the death of All Might by the hands of Shigaraki in front of his eyes, and this rage and anger towards him will unlock every single quirk hidden within One for All, and he will be able to use them at will. Not only will All Might dying facilitate Deku's growth in power, but also will aid him in not being a simp and actually maturing. Anyway, what I'm trying to say, when a tragedy like your sensei or mentor dying occurs, a person doesn't stay the same. They are forced to mature by themselves, as they won't have their mentor's hand to guide them anymore. Before, some of the burden was shared alongside their sensei's shoulders, but now they're all alone and they must adapt to this new circumstance, which will in turn lead them to stop being a little bitch boy simp. I mean, all of us have had one of those moments where we cry to ourselves, haven't you? Lastly, All Might dying doesn't mean he won't be seen again. He lives on in One for All, right? You can literally see him in the vestiges almost completely forming in the chapters, which foreshadows his death is soon. Because let me clear up a misunderstanding one could have after listening to these points and theories. When we say All Might will die, we don't mean that we will never see him again. You have to remember that if you inherited One for All, then that means that you are one of the vestiges and your essence is part of the quirk. So Deku can still see All Might inside One for All. For example, just like we see the silhouettes of the previous All for One users and the first One for All users who is All for One's brother, he explained to him the backstory and said, listen bitch, you haven't passed the singularity yet, so you can't use all the other quirks. So the foreshadowing that All Might is gonna die soon is in chapter 192, where his vestige is almost formed next to Nana. You can clearly see my man's about to die. It was also stated in chapter 257 by All Might that the purpose of the previous users of One for All was to receive the quirk and then entrust it to the next person. So this means that All Might has fulfilled his purpose and duty, which is another hint he will perish. Ultimately, I believe that All Might will eventually confront Tomoto Shigaraki, as all the plot points to this inevitable meeting has occurred, right? All Might will open up about his relationship to Tomoda and his grandmother Nana, possibly breaking through to him. All Might, being who he is, will apologize for not being there for Shigaraki when he was a kid, as he feels like it was his responsibility, and he will show that by giving Tomoda his hands, which can bring out a new potential outcome by allowing All Might to be there for him now and help take on the burden of his pain. This idea of being set free from all this baggage and pain and being manipulated by All for One, Tomoda will break down emotionally, where he'll become vulnerable, lowering his guard of his villain persona, regressing back to his scared little child that he was before. However, this will eventually set off a massive trigger, just as it did when he was a kid, because the story is coming full circle. Shigaraki killed his own family, so he will then kill All Might. So basically, the story comes full circle. Just like the first time he used his quirk and killed all of his family by accident, this could occur again. If you want to learn more about this topic, please check out my video on Shigaraki in the pinned comments below. Also, make sure to join the Discord. Make sure to smash that like button, because another theory could be, look, All Might is not gonna die. Deku just succeeds in him and tells the story and he dies of old age. You know, it might be at his funeral. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.